This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
It's Monday, April 13th, 2009, and this is episode 551 of WDW Today. I'm Matt Hotchkiss of StudioCentral.com. Joining me on today's show is Len Testa, co-author of the Infinite Guide to Walt Disney World. And Len, are you sick of chocolate yet?
I'm not actually, but I have this. I've got two bunnies, two Easter bunnies, like chocolate bunnies.
Uh-huh.
One of them is missing its tail, and one of them is missing its ears. And the one that's missing its tail says "My butt hurts," and the other one with the missing ear says "What?" which I think is just hysterical.
Geez. Now, did you engage in the age-old tradition of peep jousting in the microwave?
I don't. I'm gonna say I don't like Peeps. Hannah loves them. I don't.
Yuck.
Oh, it's more. I'm not a big fan of them, but there is some sort of entertainment to be found by putting toothpicks in them and putting them in the microwave and seeing which one pops the other one first.
No way! I gotta try that.
Yeah, it's on YouTube if you want to check it out.
Of course, everything's on YouTube.
Also joining us on today's show is Mike Scope, a senior feature writer and blogger for alleears.net. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, Matt. I'd like to toss a shout out to Jonathan Dichter, who is the co-host of All About the Mouse podcast with Brian Ripper. I'd like to congratulate Jonathan and his wife Amber, as they are expecting their first child due November 7th. So congratulations to both Jonathan and Amber.
Nice. And also joining us on today's show is Annette Owens, the manager of customer relations and group services for MEI and Mousefan Travel. Welcome, Annette.
Hey, nice to be here. And is there ever a thing as too much chocolate? Come on. Chocolate Easter eggs for the week. Come
It's
on.
like saying too much love.
Oh my God. Cadbury eggs all week long. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, I got some
One a
caramel-filled ones, yeah.
Well,
One a day. Uh-huh.
But that explains the
Yeah, right.
By day, you mean hour, right?
Shh. It depends on how bad the day gets.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's why Newell's not here, of course. He is currently receiving blood transfusions to replace the blood that he lost, trying to make room for all the chocolate that he ate. So he will not be joining us today. And on today's show, we have a show topic that is provided by none other than Len, Mr. Reliable, I should say, for this podcast. You're on a streak, Len. I don't know how many episodes in a row, but God bless you, sir.
That's me. I'm full of ideas. I'm full of something anyway.
So we're going to talk about today things you should do ahead of time to prepare yourself for a Walt Disney World visit. And, this comes into a lot of different things I think come to mind when I say something like that, in terms of, the things you do to plan ahead of time. And not obviously book a hotel. That goes without saying. But there are things that you should probably be doing ahead of time to get yourself in the best possible position for your trip when you actually get down there. So, Scopa, when I said, things that you should do ahead of time to prepare yourself for a Walt Disney World visit, what's the first thing that came to your mind?
Well, a lot of first things came to my mind, but one of the first things that came to my mind was that depending upon how often you've been, this may or may not be an important point. But if you don't go that often, and you go like every other year, every 2 years, you probably want to make sure you're in good enough shape to go through the parks. Because if you don't go that often, then when you do go, you're probably going to start off in commando mode, and you're going to try to do everything you can. So my first thought would be, if you don't go that often, then you probably want to make sure you're in good shape.
Okay, fair enough. One thing that came to my mind was, once you figure out when you're going to go, it's important, I think, to go look online for two things. One is going to be the park operational hours, so how long the park's going to be open. And also with that, on the Disney World website, it should give you some clue what rides are going to be closed during the time that you're going.
Right.
As I think, obviously, if you're going in January, where the park hours are very limited, it's going to be a lot different for your planning versus, going in July, for instance, where the park hours are, about as long as they get, really, on a daily basis. And, one thing that really always, you want to make sure you're aware of the attraction closings or whatever, because sometimes you do have major attraction closings, like for a good portion of this year, you're going to have Space Mountain being closed, and I'm sure there'll be many guests who are completely unaware of it until they get to Tomorrowland.
So they run to Tomorrowland and there's nothing.
Yeah, well, they'll be first online for the Tomorrowland Transit Authority. So that's something. Go ahead, Len.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think that Mike alluded to, I think that's really important is getting in shape. And that includes the ability to walk, up to 7 miles a day, which I think a lot of people find challenging, or at least surprising the first time they go to Walt Disney World, the distance that they're going. So having a good pair of walking shoes, actually 2 pairs of walking shoes is really important. And being able to walk comfortably a few miles a day is something that's definitely needed, that surprises a lot of people. So building up to that over the course of like a month or so is definitely something that's not trivial, and you don't want to put it off, because you don't want to start your walking regimen 2 weeks before your trip.
Having it's funny that our feet are kind of the most important part about this trip, isn't it?
I know, yeah.
But I'm going to add to it and say you need to walk in the shoes you're planning on walking in.
Exactly.
Because I've had people get walking shoes and, we just got these just for this, and blisters are going to immediately.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah. I got comfortable shoes and they were great, and I got them a week ago. No, I've actually been with somebody that did that.
Really?
It's like running a race with brand new running shoes. You don't do that.
Yeah, no. Yeah, so that's very important. Also, getting your kids in shape too. I mean, a lot of kids, they've got recess and they've got PE or whatever, but having them getting into shape to walk several miles too is also something that's definitely important, because you don't want cranky kids. You don't want kids to
line. Let them stand in line somewhere. Practice standing in line.
That's the other, exactly. That's the other thing that would be useful is having a plan saying what to do when you're standing in line. If you're going to be in lines for 10, 15, 20 minutes long, kids could get bored. What are you going to do then?
Yeah, absolutely. I think going along with that, Len, in that you're trying to plan for working your kids in, I think is important in the grand scheme of the entire trip you're looking at here, because you're dealing with children's taste and your own. Not only do you have to accommodate what you're talking about, Len, in dealing with your kids in line and making sure that they're going to be civilized. You want to also take into consideration where your dining plans are and what basically the stuff you're doing outside of just riding rides at the parks, be it dining. Right. Excursions to do stuff at the resorts, different activities or whatever it may be, to make sure that not only are you having a good time, but also, your kids' choices are going to be in there, because obviously you're going to be with them for a lot, every hour, basically every waking hour of your trip.
Right. Valid point. Yeah, it's a very good point. You want to make sure that they're that you bring along activities and things for them to do while they're in line, while there's downtime, right? Mm-hmm. The downtime could be at the airport, right?
Yep.
But the bus station, the train station,
the queue line,
in the car. There's just a lot. Yeah, there's just a lot of places where the kids could need something to do. So this is like, if you've got an iTouch, if you've got an iPod, downloading a few episodes of television shows or movies or something like that. Yeah, WW2, exactly. If you want to punish them or something, I think that's really important.
Well, I was going to say, kind of to get not only the kids, but everyone really in the mood and kind of talking about the whole thing, getting ideas of what they're looking forward to. Something, especially for those who haven't been, maybe we would just go once a year or less often than that. I would say, getting the Disney World planning DVD and popping that in the player.
Good to get people to it,
yeah. Especially if you're going with people who are not very familiar with the parks. Even your kids it's just fun to see again, but you get an idea of what's been open since the last time you went there, and get a good basic understanding of it, and it's just fun anyway.
See, I've recommended that to families that go, whether it be once a year or twice a year, every other year. It's good to sit down with the kids with a video and figure out what it is the kids are really wanting to do, because they've gotten older. So what they used to like when you took them last year, they may not really want to go on It's a Small World anymore. They might want to try something a little bigger this year. So it's kind of nice to have a family night, a family planning night, just to kind of sit down and figure out what the kids want to do, so you can put it into a plan.
That's neat.
Yeah, that's a good point. What are some other things that come to mind?
So there's go ahead, Scopa.
I was just going to say, right off the bat, you think about making those ADRs as soon as you can. And not only that, but you have to realize that when you make your ADRs, you very well are putting together your basic outline for your touring plan, because your ADR will dictate which park you will be in or where you will be in Disney World at a certain time at a certain day. So that's important too, if you want to make sure that you have those meals at those special restaurants that you want to. So you need to start thinking about ADRs as soon as possible.
The other thing I was going to say is, if you've got small children, or if you're going with a group of people, have a plan for each park that includes a place to rendezvous if you get separated.
Yeah.
So I know everyone's got cell phones and everything, but sometimes cell phones don't work, or
Just the
sometimes exactly. iPhone reception is not great. But if there are kids that are involved, or people that don't have cell phones, have a place to get separated. Have a place to meet if you get separated. I think that's very
But don't
important.
make it the obvious ones either, because that's another thing.
'cause
So many
a
people
lot of
say meet at the castle, and
And another thing too is you have to be very, very specific, because if you say let's meet in Japan, and we say this in the Unofficial Guide, Japan is huge in World Showcase. So you might want to be something like let's meet by the front entrance to this particular restaurant, which is much more narrow. If you say let's meet at this pavilion, people will be surprised at how big that is and how much room for interpretation that leaves.
I believe, Len, you always suggest to your child that you'll meet her if you ever get separated at a particular bar.
Exactly. Like you know where to find Daddy.
And might as well take advantage of the situation.
Exactly. It's the sixth time today I've been lost. I don't know.
I don't think he's losing me on purpose. I don't think.
What the heck?
What I was going to say is when you're going back to the plans ahead of time, we were talking about, what attractions are going to be closed. Really important now for people that haven't been recently. Phantasmic's only a couple of days a week.
Yeah.
Spectro Magic, some of these other things, if you're wanting to see those, you definitely want to make sure that you see this and go on and get that schedule.
Absolutely.
Working. You want to look that up before you get there and then find out, we just did Magic Kingdom yesterday and that was the day.
Yeah.
Oopsie doodle.
Going along with that, Annette, not only do you want to plan your in-park stuff, you're going to want to, when you get close to your trip, maybe even a week away or so, 5 to 7 days out, check your weather forecast. I mean, the weather forecasters are not by no means perfect, but if they're predicting, a major storm coming in, or basically a rain day at some point in your trip, you're going to want to, plan accordingly. But, probably not a great day to go to the Animal Kingdom, for instance.
Exactly. That's a good point.
Yeah, that's
Check
a really
the
good
weather.
one because I've had to buy a $58 sweatshirt before.
Yeah, Len did that for him and his wife.
On it, $121, I think, total with tax.
I remember that.
I mean, and the thing is, I still wear it. Now I wear it to run, and there are much less expensive sweatshirts than that.
To say the least.
Kills me every time I ever.
Memories.
I know.
So we've got the weather. What are some other things, Scopa, that come to mind?
Well, one of the things I would think of is if you're planning to take photos, make sure that your memory card is emptied, and make sure that you have, if you anticipate taking a lot of photos, think about taking a lot of batteries. You may want to take a battery charger, rechargeable batteries. Get your camera ready, and by that I mean get it ready a week or two beforehand. Make sure it's working correctly.
Make sure you have it. Make sure you have it on the right photo setting. That it's not at the super high res or super low res images, so that that you're not going to fill up your memory card with 10 photos and stuff like that.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right.
I know that
Not a bad idea to either have a way of downloading them if you download them somewhere so you're not carrying them in the park. I can tell you from experience, my husband actually deleted some very important pictures of my kids with Raven that
Really?
Can't get back because he was playing around with the camera and
Oopsie doodle. I'm amazed no one saw that coming.
so well anyway, but really we've now daily.
No, get it? There was a Raven joke in there. Get it?
Oh, I get it.
Oh.
She's psychic in the. Oh Lord, you guys! I swear my brilliance here.
The other thing I want to mention also, I know a lot of our listeners are Disney Visa card members, and a lot of people like myself, whenever I accrue a number of points for my trip, I like to, call Visa up and have those points transferred to a rewards card. And it's very easy if you have the rewards card, but it's something to do. But of course, if you don't have your rewards card, an active one or a valid one with you, you're going to have to request one through the mail. And so it's important to do that ahead of time. You can get them at Downtown Disney if you forget, but, you don't want to waste time doing that. You might as well just get that ahead of time. So that's something definitely to keep in mind.
That's a good point.
Other tips?
See, we've food, getting in shape, having a place to rendezvous.
Well, in addition to the weather, I was talking about rain before, but also you got to, kind of plan for the weather that you're going to be getting there in terms of the regular weather, in terms of temperature, especially if you're going anytime from, I would say, October through April, and you're coming from north of the Mason-Dixon line, and planning accordingly for the weather, because most of those people are going to be coming from colder environments to warmer environments, but there's varying degrees of warm in Florida. So you're going to want to, know
True.
if you're going to need all shorts or if you're going to need, maybe a few pairs of jeans thrown in there or maybe even sweatshirts.
Sunscreen too. Don't forget.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, sunscreen's a big one.
Yes.
Sunscreen. There's so most good weather places like weather.com will give you a UV index, ultraviolet index,
Uh-huh.
along with the weather forecast. Make sure you look at that because usually they give it on a scale of 1 to 10. If you know what the anything above like a 5, I'm thinking bring out the very very big vat of sunscreen.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You're going to want to also be able to make sure you prepare yourself for possible physical conditions that can occur down there. I mean, obviously, if you're prone to certain, if you're prone to motion sickness, perhaps you'd like to bring
Oh,
with
great
you,
tip. Yes. Yes.
Dramamine or whatever it might be.
Yeah, it's very good.
All those kinds of things. Whatever, if you're potentially susceptible to things, especially in the theme park, especially when it's hot out, it might be smart of you to plan that ahead.
That's a great tip. So bring some Dramamine or a barf bag.
Just go into Mission Space and take it.
That's right.
But no, it's a really good one because I've hunted around trying to find medicine, Excedrin. I'm prone to headaches, and I forgot the medicine, and it can be hard to find Excedrin. Find
Oh, good to
Tylenol.
know.
Yeah. Plus, and never even finding it in it. It's a matter of not paying, $20 for it when you can get it for a couple dollars at your local pharmacy.
Yeah, but when you got a headache,
Yeah, exactly. You're not gonna.
hey, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Bring it with you is a great tip.
Any other last tips here?
So you got activities for on the road or waiting in line. No, I think that's a pretty good thing. If our listeners have tips, go ahead and post them on the website, and we'll take a look at them. And if we need to do a follow-up show, we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's it for us today. If you want to find our older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, visit the WDW website at WDWtoday.com. For Len Testa, Mike Scopo, Mike Newell, and the fabulous Annette Owens, I'm Matt Hochberg. We'll see you on the next show.
Stupid Judy, stupid energy.
This has been a production of Mouse World Radio.